Thank you for coming out tonight. We are streaming the meeting, and we'll have a significantly larger group of people watching what we say and do. Very appreciative of all the assistance we have gotten from our clientele. I'm Mark DiBenedetto, Superintendent. Mr. Picarillo, Assistant Superintendent. Ms. Ana Sodai is a new instructor in our school who is going to translate for our growing Latino population. She's volunteered to do this. When Mr. D hires somebody, he does not fool around. We are blessed with good, new, young teachers and principals too. We are looking towards reopening, aiming for April 12th.
Vamos a abrir la escuela abril 12.
April 12th is not a definite date because we are looking to open only after 3 consecutive weeks of the yellow code being designated for the virus. As you know,
el county de Hopatcong tiene que estar 3 semanas consecutivas en amarillo para poder abrir el 12 de abril.
The codes are divided, red being the most serious, orange, which is what we have been most of the year, and yellow. Yellow is a lesser designation. We reached yellow 2 weeks ago, but it went back to orange. So my goal is, let's get 3 consecutive weeks of yellow. We will be ready to open.
Estuvimos en amarillo hace 2 semanas, pero volvimos a subir a naranja esta semana. Entonces necesitamos tener 3 semanas consecutivas con amarillo.
I have to pick my words carefully because of the seriousness of the virus. But given the vaccines, over 30 million Americans have now received the vaccine. Given the yellow code or orange code, the border, it's on the border, so to speak. Given the fact that the virus was very hurtful towards those in ill health, we believe the reopening time is possible now.
Tengo que tener mucho cuidado con lo que digo por lo que ha pasado con este virus. Ha afectado a muchas familias y mucha gente, pero creo que el día de abril 12 sería un buen día para abrir.
So as we collected questions today, one of the questions was, how much time will we give parents about reopening? And we will, once we hit yellow again, we'll go 3 weeks down the road and say that is our target date, with the caveat, if it goes back to orange, we start all over.
Una pregunta es cuándo vamos a tener información de que vamos a volver a abrir. Lo que va a pasar es que en el momento que lleguemos a amarillo, le van a avisar y en ese momento empiezan las 3 semanas. En el momento que vuelva a subir a naranja, se vuelve a resetear las 3 semanas.
There are other reasons why we feel reopening is appropriate in the near future. We have planned very carefully to be able to safely open up lunches and very safely add physical education back to the regular curriculum. I received excellent input from my principals about reopening.
Hay algunas razones por las que podemos abrir las escuelas. Una de ellas es tener lunch en el día, comer adentro de la escuela y tener educación física también.
The reopening plans for each school are different because of their population and because of what they have. So at the Durban Avenue School, using shields and social spacing and a little bit of a different schedule, the principal has enabled a safe lunch period. At the middle school, it's a little different because the cafeteria there is a little more crowded. We have to use alternative spaces, such as another room or the area outside under the canopy.
So, cada escuela tiene diferentes planes para abrir por la población que está adentro de esa escuela. En la primaria va a ser diferente porque vamos a tener los los espejos esos vitrales que vamos a tener para que puedan comer adentro de sus salones. En la secundaria, la middle school, va a ser, los lunches tienen que ser en diferentes lugares porque el lugar, la cafetería, no es tan grande.
In the high school, lunches will be half the time they usually are. Half the students will come in and eat. As they leave, the room will be sanitized, and the other students will come in. They were in the auditorium while the first group was eating, and we'll switch. That'll be a little bit of a challenge, but it's a doable circumstance. So what I like about what the principals have done is come up with plans that are appropriate to their buildings, to the physical building, and to the age level of their children.
La high school va a tener lunches que van a ser la mitad del tiempo y entre cada lunch va a haber alguien que va a venir a limpiar la cafetería antes de que el siguiente grupo entre para que sea limpio para ese grupo.
Another reason for reopening centers on a strong movement currently going on. I would say on the average, in the last 3 weeks, 9 out of 10 requests I have from parents are to bring kids back live as opposed to bringing them to virtual.
Hay mucha gente que quiere venir de regreso a la escuela. Ese es la mayoría de gente que quiere venir.
Another reopening factor has to do with the weather. It wasn't 21 degrees today. It was amazing. Okay, and as the weather improves, we will have opportunity to use the outsides of our buildings.
La siguiente razón es por el clima de afuera, ya no va a ser tanto frío, entonces podemos tener actividades afuera de la escuela para que sea más seguro.
So for example, Tulsa Trail has limited outside space. It has the big hill and a small playground. But we will be able to seal off the area outside this high school auditorium and tech center so that the youngsters can use the blacktop area for physical activities in recess.
Los estudiantes pequeños no tienen demasiado espacio afuera, entonces lo que va a pasar es que van a hacer un espacio diferente usando el patio de la high school para hacer más espacio para que ellos puedan jugar ahí.
Another reason for the fact that we're talking about reopening centers on new research about social distancing. We just read research today which says 3 feet is as good as 6 feet, as opposed to a year ago.
Ha salido nueva información acerca del virus y la distancia se ha movido a 3 pies en vez de 6. Es la misma respuesta que sean 6 o que sean 3.
But social distancing for schools has always been what is practical. It wasn't a requirement. Now, if I have an English class with 23 kids and all 23 kids come back, that's too crowded. So what we will most likely do is we'll have a plan B for larger classes, and that will allow, on an alternating basis, on Monday, 4 kids might go to and take the class virtually in the building. Tuesday, a different 4, Wednesday, a different 4, depending on the number of kids. That's something that can be done in an equitable manner, and that's something that I don't think we're going to be faced with too often, but it is Plan B.
Va a haber un plan B para las clases que tengan más de 21 o 23 estudiantes. En este caso, no podemos tener tanta gente adentro del salón. Entonces, hay un plan B para que estos estudiantes puedan venir a la escuela, pero tomar esas clases en otros salones con más distancia para que todos podamos tener la distancia sana.
So what will reopening mean? We had a number of excellent questions today sent to us.
And they keep coming in, fast and furious.
Fast and Furious. Isn't that a movie or something? Masks will be worn and required for the remainder of the school year. for staff and students. We will use dividers both for lunch and for classrooms, K through 5. In fact, the Tulsa Trail students will bring their dividers to lunch with them. There'll be a 3-sided division. They'll be able to eat lunch and bring it back. Little exercise for the youngsters.
You're good. Máscaras son totalmente requeridas, se van a tener que tomar todo el día, los estudiantes y los maestros tienen que tenerlas en todo el tiempo. Los estudiantes de K a quinto grado van a tener dividores que van a usar en sus salones y van a tener esos dividores con ellos en el lunch.
Parents will have a choice between live and virtual, but that decision will be frozen for some time and possibly the rest of the year. So we respect that some parents will want their kids to remain virtual, but switching them back to live is going to be more difficult than it has been all year. Some districts are requiring doctor's notes for virtual. I understand that. There's an illness in the family. The child is immune deficient, etc. We're not going to do that. We're going to trust. There are other reasons besides medical ones why some parents want virtual.
Todos los papás van a tener la opción de seguir o en persona o virtualmente. Si tú decides quedarte virtualmente, va a ser una decisión que puede ser por un tiempo o para el resto del año escolar. Si lo que la escuela no va a pedir que traigas una nota de doctor para comprobar que tienes que quedarte virtualmente.
There will be few after-hours clubs when we get back full-time. A, there's not a great deal of time left in the school year. B, we are going to utilize some of the money we save from funding stipends for people to run the clubs, and we will begin to incorporate after-school tutoring programs to make up for learning loss.
Va a haber algunos cuantos clubes después de clase, pero el resto del dinero que se usaría para esos clubs se va a usar para tener horas de tutor después de clases por los estudiantes que les falte la educación.
There will be a graduation at the high school. It may mimic last year's, or it might be a traditional one. We don't know yet. There will be a 7th grade advancement ceremony. There will be an 8th grade dance, as long as we can allow to have that many people in one place. There will be award ceremonies with possibly limited attendance. There will be a prom.
Va a haber una graduación, la graduación sí va a pasar, puede ser igual como la del año pasado o puede cambiar también. La ceremonia de séptimo grado sí va a pasar, prom también va a pasar para la escuela. El baile de 8º grado puede pasar, lo único es que tenemos que saber si podemos tener tanta gente adentro de la escuela en ese tiempo.
The district will not require staff members to be vaccinated. That is a personal medical decision, and I don't feel that as superintendent of school, it's any of my business to force people to get a vaccination they may not want. While I'm speaking of staff, I've said this just about every meeting we've had because it is well deserved. You should be very proud that you have the quality of people teaching in your classrooms. It's a very high quality.
Los maestros no van a estar requeridos que se pongan la vacuna porque él sabe que es algo personal que tú tienes la decisión de tener. Él está súper orgulloso de sus maestros y de su staff de esta escuela y de las demás.
One of the reasons I'm asking for 3 weeks of yellow not only has to do with my concern for safety, but I want people to be able to prepare. So 3 weeks we believe will be a sufficient prep time. If there are challenges, we need to know them.
Una de las razones por la que él quiere tener 3 semanas, no nada más es por seguridad, pero también le quiere dar tiempo a los papás y las familias para que tengan el tiempo necesario para regresar a la escuela.
We had some questions about September. September is too far away to make definitive decisions today. So we will put off decisions on September. We are required to submit a plan to the state. That plan will include the potential for virtual learning to continue. I can't answer the question about mask requirements for September, etc. There'll be more information on that down the line.
Los planes para septiembre todavía no pueden ser finalizados porque es hace mucho tiempo. A lo mejor ese plan tiene formas de ser virtual y a lo mejor tiene máscaras, pero otra vez no puede tener esa información final porque es demasiado tiempo en espera.
There will be learning loss programs in the summer and in the spring. Starting with first grade, this spring, we will have the ability to use tutoring or learning pods, small groups of 2 or 3 kids being instructed by a teacher for an hour to make up skills that were not mastered or that were lost during the pandemic time. I'm just putting this together. The federal government has been very generous. They've given us some monies to allow us to do this. This is all different than the state aid cuts. It's completely different. We can use this federal money where it's needed the most, and that's for our children.
Va a haber programas empezando esta primavera y también en el verano para estudiantes que les falte un poco de práctica en algunos temas que se han perdido mientras la pandemia ha pasado.
At the middle school, there will be some class movement as opposed to what's happened so far this year, where the kids pretty much stayed in one room. There will be some movement in the middle school. That was a question we had. And I also had a question about lockers. We will not be using lockers until further notice. So that covers what I needed to say. And some of the questions we got up to a certain point in the time of the day. I'm going to turn it over to Joseph. Joe, feel free to read the questions out and provide answers, sir.
Do you want to just say no lockers, Spanish?
No va a haber ningunos lockers usados en cualquier escuela y las clases de middle school de repente se van a empezar a mover, no como están pasando en este momento. We're ready for questions.
Gracias. Okay, so there have been several. So I will go through, I'll ask the question.
Sure.
And then Ms. Sodi will give the translation, and then I'll give the answer. Okay, question 1. Where do we find the county color code that we keep referring to? So that is the question. Go ahead, Anna.
¿Dónde encontramos? La pregunta es ¿dónde encontramos? ¿En qué color estamos en este momento?
Every Thursday.
This comes out every Thursday afternoon, and it's called the CALI, C-A-L-I report.
Este reporte sale cada jueves, se letrea C-A-L-I.
I just put up the link to that report on the main page of our website via my Twitter feed. If you scroll to the bottom of our website, you'll see the link.
El link para esta pantalla está en el website de la escuela hasta abajo.
Okay. Next question. And all these questions just came through. Why aren't we waiting for all staff to be vaccinated? And what if the parents of students aren't vaccinated?
La pregunta es ¿por qué no estamos esperando a que todos los maestros sean vacunados? ¿Y qué pasaría si los papás tampoco están vacunados?
A, not all staff will be vaccinated because some don't want to be. B, I have no control over getting the staff vaccinated. We are trying to get a provider to come to the schools. No luck on that so far. C, I have no control and no knowledge of parents getting vaccinated. That's none of my business. It's medical information. So we are reopening for the reasons put forth.
Esa información de que la gente esté vacunada en su familia es privada. Él no tiene esa información y no puede decir que los maestros se tienen que vacunar porque es una decisión personal.
What if we don't want our students to come back and they still be virtual? Then the answer is yes.
Yeah, we already said that, yes. Absolutely, parents have the choice.
What is the cleaning procedure in between classes or at night?
La pregunta es ¿cómo limpian la escuela entre las clases o en la noche?
The cleaning procedure is the same as it has been. There's significant spray materials that are used that kill any remnants of any virus or bacteria. There's a name for it that I'm just not remembering it off the top of my head right now, but we've been very successful with keeping things clean. Today we timed how long it takes to clean the cafeteria between lunches. The spray machines they're using, it took 3 minutes and 30 seconds for the tables.
El tiempo que se dura para limpiar la cafetería entre los lunches toma 3 minutos con 30 segundos para limpiar todas las mesas.
This mist is unbelievable. It shoots like 30 feet and it's really quick. So it's, I think, very good. Next question. Okay, there are many questions kind of similar, and so I'm going to ask it in general terms. Many people are asking me about very specific building-related questions, and so I'll give you my answer after Anna translates that.
Hay preguntas que son muy específicas para cada escuela, entonces él va a preguntar las más general y luego ya contestamos.
So the answer is twofold. First, in the coming weeks, once we see that we're definitely going to open soon, I will post up on our website individual school-specific plans with a lot more detail, similar to the way we did this back in the summer.
Cuando ya estemos más cerca de esas 3 semanas que necesitamos tener, él va a postear en la website de la escuela información de cada escuela para ser más específico.
Secondly, if there is a building-specific question, chances are if you email me, in addition to my response, I'll probably copy the building principal because that's the right thing to do. I would suggest that you reach out to the building principal also. You can always copy me or copy Mr. DiBenedetto. We are often involved in answering all the questions, but chances are, if it's very specific to the building principal is the person to ask.
Si es una pregunta que es muy específica para cada escuela, usted puede mandar un correo electrónico al principal de la escuela o a ellos dos presentes.
Joe, give a sample of one of those questions, please.
Okay, an example of one of those questions is you had articulated some things about Durbin's lunch. Because you gave Durbin as your example, now I'm getting questions about every single other building's lunch procedure.
Good, that'll all be on the website.
It'll all be on the website.
Toda esa información va a estar en el website para ustedes.
Several questions coming through about travel plans over spring break, what parents should be doing to communicate this with buildings.
All right, let me answer this question. This is
Wait, hold on.
La pregunta que llegó es de que si los papás y las familias se pueden ir de vacaciones cuando empiece el spring break.
This is hard for me to say because 97% of our people are doing what we've asked them to do. But it only takes a couple of people not to do what we ask. I have 10 teachers at the middle school being quarantined. Most of them have been quarantined because a child was sent to school with symptoms or was sent to school with a parent who tested positive. I can't run the darn place if we're not honest with each other. I've met with every teacher who's going on a break or travel in the spring. I met with every one of them and wrote up a plan. Some will have the second vaccine. They'll wait 2 weeks before they go away and everything will be fine. Others will quarantine. If you're traveling, we need to know. We need to know where you're going, and we need to know when you're coming back. And we're probably going to say you have to quarantine. And I don't like sounding like a mean old man, but this is vital to the health of other kids and of our staff. I almost had to shut the middle school down again for tomorrow. You don't pay attention, and it's just basic stuff. I test positive, I send my kid to school. That's a shame.
Si usted tiene una información acerca de que va a salir a un lugar de vacaciones, por favor dé esa información a ellos para que ellos sepan a dónde va y cuándo regresa. That's it. That's all we got.
That doesn't,
Yeah.
so I guess you could be more articulate.
Anna cannot be mean.
Yeah. What happens if we are yellow for 3 weeks, then go back, and at some point revert back to orange? Does that mean we have to close down again?
¿Qué pasaría si estamos en amarillo y cuando ya abrimos más la escuela volvemos a naranja?
If we're full-time and it goes 3 weeks yellow and the 4th or 5th week is orange, we'll wait 1 week and then we'll go back to 4 hours a day if we have to.
Okay, there's something important to add, but go ahead.
Sure. Si estamos en amarillo y volvemos a naranja, vamos a esperar una semana a ver qué pasa, pero si necesitamos, regresamos a medios días.
Okay, so Mr. D just mentioned something quickly. I want to make sure that you heard it. If we revert back to all virtual, we're reverting back to a shorter day. Does that make sense?
No. Why would we revert back to all virtual? You just said all virtual. What do you mean?
If, for some reason, I thought you were just alluding to, if, let's say Mr. D's talking about shutting the middle school down. He's talking about if there was a situation we'd have to quarantine and go all virtual.
Right.
In that case, you would shorten the day.
Yes.
Okay.
Si volvemos a todos virtuales, el día se volverá medio otra vez.
Just to be clear, I'll repeat this. We're yellow 3 weeks, we open up, good, 2 weeks are good, then the 3rd week we're back to orange. We'll stay open 1 week. If it's orange again, we'll go back to the 4-hour day, live and virtual. Remember, we've been orange since, how long? September?
We had 1 week of yellow, a glorious week, and then went back to orange.
So we've been orange almost the whole time.
Yeah, a long time.
We'll get questions from the audience very soon.
Sí, lo que está aclarando otra vez lo que dijo, si estamos 3 semanas amarillas y luego vuelve después de 2 semanas naranja, él va a esperarse una semana completa para ver qué pasa después. Si siguen a naranja, vamos a regresar al horario que estamos en este momento, virtual y en persona por mediodía.
Okay, I'm taking just these 3 last questions I have here in my inbox, and then we'll take questions from the public. If you have more questions at any time, email us, please.
Va a tomar 3 preguntas más y luego va a regalar las preguntas del público que está aquí. Pero si usted tiene una pregunta que no se ha contestado en este momento, puede mandarle un correo electrónico a él.
Okay, I'll combine these 2. How will a determination be made on who receives summer tutoring? Is it available to everyone?
Great
And when will we know?
That is a great question.
Hold on.
You would say that was a great question.
Yeah. La pregunta era, ¿cómo se va a decidir quién va a poder ser parte de este programa del verano con extra tutor? Excelente pregunta. Yeah.
I would be exaggerating if I said I could answer that with total honesty right now. I am working on that. I will try to meet the needs of kids who teachers feel are most needy. I will offer the tutoring and the learning pods to virtual kids, but they will have to come live. But I can't tell you yet how I could have the teachers identify skills that the kids are not doing well in and get the program that way. But I have to add more than just the teacher recommendation. And I don't have that settled yet.
Porque estos programas son nuevos, él todavía no tiene mucha información, pero lo que sí sabe es que va a preguntar a los maestros y maestras quién serían los estudiantes que necesitan más ayuda para que esos sean los estudiantes que vengan a esas sesiones.
Before answering this last question, just to mention, I have received some emails recently from students, which I always welcome, wanting to share their opinions on whether to come back or not. There are students emailing me on both sides of the issue, which is kind of in line with what the public has been, right? Multiple opinions. I am very open and willing to Google Meet or meet in person with any of the students that want to discuss this with me. I've tried to communicate with them and be open about that. So if any students are watching, you can definitely have a direct line to me and to Mr. DiBenedetto. We always welcome that.
Si algún estudiante está viendo este video en este momento y tiene más preguntas o tener una conversación con él acerca de estos planes y decir su opinión, puede tener un Google Meet con él o puede tener una conversación en persona con él.
The last question is,
I gotta answer that one.
yes, sir. Sí, señor.
Some of the input we got from students explains how much they want to come back, but why they shouldn't come back. And some of the reasons they give for not coming back were essentially caused by not being in school. Kabish? So a student says that they're home and that they've had mental challenges. Well, the reason they had the mental challenges is because they're home and they're not amongst their friends and there's not a social interaction. Long story short, bad times build grit. And we need grit in our younger generation. And that sounds like an old school statement, but I know nothing in my life, but I know kids. We need grit among our youngsters. And a pandemic, a loss, whether it's a loss of a family member, the loss of a basketball game, a dispute among friends, you must build grit. And I expect those kids to get back to school.
Él está leyendo información de unos estudiantes que le dieron carta acerca de por qué tenía que regresar o por qué no regresar a la escuela. Lo que él está diciendo es que los estudiantes necesitan fuerza para regresar a la escuela en los tiempos que vienen.
Last question is, if teachers are quarantining, who's in the classroom?
La pregunta es que si no hay maestras en el salón porque están en cuarentena, ¿quién está ahí?
Great question again.
Perfecto, pregunta perfecta.
We have various ways to do this. Sometimes we are using traditional substitutes. Other times, because the work is online, we have one substitute in a large group area while the students are working online and they're supervised. Those are the two methodologies we're using. It is a challenge having 10 teachers out of a building, and that doesn't even count if someone calls in sick. That's a struggle for the principal. The principals have been great. Fortunately, we do have some paraprofessionals who have sub-certification. We do use them. Teachers have been helping out greatly by filling in for their peers. There have been administrators who have covered classes, including the kindergarten kid who said, what did he say I look like? Some terrible criminal.
La gente que está en ese salón son gente que ha sido aprobada por la escuela, o ha sido gente que son como ellos, maestros, principals, otros maestros ayudan a alguien más y diferentes paraprofesionales que están adentro también.
And for the people that are entering late and emailing me, you didn't miss it. We have not announced the date for reopening. We announced a concept for approaching reopening.
Por la gente que acaba de llegar al video, no dijeron qué día va a ser el exacto día que vamos a abrir. Lo único que dijeron fue el plan de cómo sería las siguientes semanas para poder abrir en el día que quieran ellos.
Question. You gotta speak up because I'm deaf.
So my question is, if one school is compromised, like you're saying, the possible shutdown, if they're compromised, are all the schools going to close down or just one?
Okay, so the question is, if there is an issue with COVID in a school, is it possible for just a single school to shut down, or must the entire district shut down? And the answer is, it is possible for just a single building to shut down.
Happened Monday.
It's happened a couple of times.
La pregunta fue que si una escuela se cierra por lo que está pasando, ¿se cierra todas las escuelas o solo una? Y la respuesta es que sí puedes nada más cerrarse una escuela y no todas las demás.
Gerard.
I've listened carefully so far, and I can't imagine the amount of time and effort and planning that has gone into this. It's like building a cabin on quicksand, because I'm sure it changes every day. So I've been really very impressed. You've answered all my questions with your presentation. I only have one last question. What does capiche mean?
Capiche? Then do you understand?
La persona solo quería decir que ha sido muy buen trabajo lo que están haciendo. Sabe él que ha sido muy difícil tener que hacer todos estos planes porque cambian todo el tiempo y él está agradecido.
¿Sabes?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a two-part question, not really, but one is, what will recess look like for the kids? I'm guessing they can't use the playground, so what will it actually look like? Will there be interaction and socialization? And then the second question is around standardized testing.
Slowly I turn, step by step, inch by inch.
Just repeat the question for the...
You do it.
The question is about protocols around recess and how those might have changed. And then there was a second part to the question that boiled Mr. DiBenedetto's blood because it spoke about standardized testing.
So, la pregunta es para los estudiantes que tienen el receso en la clase, ¿se va a ver igual o algo va a cambiar? Y la segunda pregunta era de los exámenes que vienen del Estado.
Recess will be held outdoors as much as possible. All equipment will be sanitized in between every period. The kids will not share equipment. We are purchasing a lot of chalk. We're purchasing balls. We're purchasing different types of things that kids can do by themselves. If you came to a gym class in high school, you would see kids participating, but they're not sharing any equipment. So kids playing basketball each have their own basketball. They play and they retrieve. Similar concept for recess. We are stressing movement, jump rope, run, climb. We're going to try our best. Well, the kids will be wearing masks, but we'll try our best to distance them. But anything we can do that provides some physical activity will be done. If the weather is bad, then recess will be held in their regular classrooms.
La respuesta a la pregunta es que va a tratar todo lo posible para que eso sea afuera. Están comprando más juguetes, más bolas, más cosas que los estudiantes puedan hacer individualmente para que nadie tenga que compartir objetos. Todo va a estar sanitizado a cada vez que acaben las clases, y si no pueden estar afuera por el clima, el receso va a quedarse adentro de la escuela.
In terms of standardized testing, the government has said that they expect us to complete standardized testing. They gave us a spring date, but that's not cast in concrete. I will go on record as saying that giving kids a standardized test after a year of what they've gone through is child abuse.
El Estado ha dicho que sí estamos expectados para hacer ese tipo de exámenes con ellos. Han dado un día en la primavera, pero ese no ha sido finalizado. Y él quiere decir que eso él no lo ve correctamente.
One last clarification on the point about closing an individual school is sometimes we have to close a school to go fully virtually for one day. And I just want to explain why that is. It's because in the few instances that happened over the last couple of weeks where this has occurred, I personally learned of a positive student in a classroom 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., Sunday night. While I work at all hours of the day, I can't call families at that hour and find out who their child sits next to. I can't expect to have a teacher pick up a phone call from me at 11 at night. And so, as much as I hate to close school for that reason, I have to close it as a precaution, get more information the next morning, and that's why it's only been a day in those instances, and I apologize for that.
Él quiere clarificar por qué se han cerrado escuelas solo por un día para ser virtualmente completa. La razón es porque él le da la información de un caso positivo de COVID a las 11 o 12 de la noche. Él no puede hacer llamadas a papás, a familias o a maestros en ese tiempo, entonces tiene que esperar al día siguiente para hacer esas llamadas y por eso tiene que cerrar la escuela por solo un día.
Thank you, and God bless you, and be safe. Thank you.
Gracias. Great. You're welcome. I'm sweating.